We're just weeks away from the November 5th elections, and some new laws will change the way some Louisiana voters cast their ballots. Earlier this year, state lawmakers passed several pieces of legislation dealing with mail-in absentee voting. Some advocacy groups have filed a lawsuit saying those changes will make it more challenging for people with disabilities and the elderly to vote. Several new laws surrounding absentee voting were recently passed during this year's legislative session that will enforce stricter absentee rules during the upcoming November election and beyond. Bill authors say it's a way to ensure election integrity.
This closes some loopholes in our current absentee ballot laws, and it's intended to limit the opportunity for ballot harvesting and ballot tampering by limiting the number of absentee ballots that can be sent via the mail to the registrar of voters to one per person unless that person is an immediate family member.
This bill is part of the election integrity package from the Secretary of State. The purpose of this legislation is to further strengthen our election security within Louisiana.
While others say the changes will negatively impact voters with disability, the elderly, and those who are more apt to vote by mail.
It was unfortunate because these laws, what they do is, I always say Louisiana is a state of helpers, right? And when you limit the ability of helpers to help, then it basically, amounts to voter suppression and the inability of certain populations to access their vote and their voice.
In all, the laws make several changes. One makes it illegal to print out an absentee ballot form for someone who didn't request it. A second makes it illegal to help fill out, mail, or witness a ballot for more than one person who isn't an immediate family member. And another requires the recording of the name, address, and relationship to the voter and whether they were paid to assist with the ballot. The final part addresses when the governor declares a state of emergency within 45 days of an election. It leaves it up to the Secretary of State to determine if mail-in ballots are necessary for displaced citizens.
This a series of laws. One limits who can witness a ballot. The other law limits who can actually support someone in completing a ballot to just one. And so, like this idea that you can't help multiple folks, and it's fascinating in a state with very low voter turnout that we would be engaging in voter suppression. We actually worked with the legislature the prior year and actually had a disability task force that worked with the Secretary of State's office to acknowledge some of the issues around disabled community being able to access their vote. Certainly that they need support and help completing that ballot. Elderly and disabled folks that live in rural areas and have one person that comes to help them every day. Like what are people supposed to do?
Advocacy group Disability Rights Louisiana filed a lawsuit against the Secretary of State's office, claiming the new set of laws are discriminatory to the elderly and disabled. Attorney Andrew Bizer agrees that the new laws are unconstitutional.
This is in direct violation of the Voting Rights Act. It's very clear that this law it goes against that federal civil rights law and should be struck down by the courts. It's just that simple.
However, Bizer says because the lawsuit was filed too close to the November election, the laws will remain for now. But he says he's hopeful the fight will go on and that a change will come for the next time voters need to hit the polls.